Let's go on a journey. Tonight we're traveling to ancient Babylon, in what is today modern Iraq, the Gate of the Gods, a city of towering walls, bustling markets, and temples that reach toward the stars. Over the next 13 minutes, we'll walk through Babylon's rise under Hammurabi, explore his law code, admire Nebuchadnezzar's wonders, and watch as the empire passes to the Persians. Find a comfortable position, let your breathing slow, and allow this story to unfold. Mesopotamia, before Babylon. Before Babylon was an empire, it was part of a region the Greeks called Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers. To the southeast lay Sumer, with humanity's earliest cities. To the northwest lay Akkad. Between the Tigris and Euphrates, people had already invented writing, built ziggurats, and created early law codes. This older heritage would shape Babylonian religion, literature, and science for centuries. Picture endless mud brick towns and canal networks, farmers guiding water to fields, and scribes pressing marks into clay tablets. The birth of Babylon began as one of many small settlements. Its name, from the Akkadian Babilim, means Gate of the Gods. Around 1900 BCE, the Amorites made Babylon their capital. It was not yet the mighty empire we remember. It was a promising city with defensive walls, local temples, and merchants on dusty streets. Hammurabi takes the stage. The true rise of Babylon begins with Hammurabi, who reigned around 1792 to 1750 BCE. He inherited a kingdom surrounded by rivals. Over decades, he combined diplomacy and warfare to bring most of Mesopotamia under his control. He conquered neighbors and extended Babylonian rule across the region. Picture messengers riding along riverbanks, carrying clay tablets sealed with impressions, announcing victories, all flowing back toward Babylon. He reorganized territories, appointed governors, and promoted scholarship, preserving older Sumerian and Akkadian texts. The Code of Hammurabi. Hammurabi's most famous legacy is his law code, one of the earliest and most extensive legal collections. Inscribed on a tall stone stele, it covers property, marriage, wages, injuries, and crimes. The laws are famously strict, associated with an eye for an eye, but they also distinguish between social classes and attempt to protect the vulnerable. The prologue presents Hammurabi as a just king chosen by the gods. Imagine artisans carving cuneiform signs into dark stone, recording rules to stabilize a complex urban world. Religion and the gods. Religion was at the heart of Babylon. The chief god was Marduk, who rose to supremacy. Temples held land, employed workers, and maintained libraries. Priests conducted rituals. Ordinary people brought offerings and sought protection. Picture a temple courtyard at dawn, incense rising in the still air, the quiet murmur of prayers blending with daily life. Culture and learning. Babylon drew from Sumerian traditions but developed its own literature and science. Scribes copied myths, hymns, and epics. One famous work is the Enuma Elish, the creation epic celebrating Marduk's victory over chaos. Astronomers observed the heavens. Mathematicians worked with complex calculations. Scholars sat in quiet rooms, clay tablets spread before them, marking stars and copying ancient poetry. Decline and Kassite rule. Empires in Mesopotamia were fragile. Around 1595 BCE, a Hittite king sacked Babylon, ending Amorite rule. The Kassites took control and ruled for about 400 years. Babylon remained a religious and cultural center, respected, a place where gods were honored and texts were treasured. Assyrian domination. From the 9th to the late 7th century BCE, Assyrian kings controlled Babylonia. Assyria's capitals overshadowed Babylon politically, but Babylon retained its religious importance. Even under foreign domination, Babylon remained a city of temples and scholars, waiting for another chance to rise. Nabopolassar and revival. That chance came with with Nabopolassar, a Chaldean leader who seized power. Around 612 BCE, he led a coalition that destroyed Nineveh. With Assyria's fall, the Neo-Babylonian Empire emerged, Babylon's last and greatest period, setting the stage for his son Nebuchadnezzar II. Nebuchadnezzar II ruled from 605 to 562 BCE. He expanded the empire, conquering Syria and Palestine. He is remembered for the destruction of Jerusalem in 587 BCE, but he was also a great builder. He rebuilt Babylon's walls, constructed processional avenues, and refurbished the Temple of Marduk. The Ishtar Gate, with its glazed blue bricks decorated with bulls and dragons, formed part of a ceremonial route. Entering the city at twilight, the blue walls glowing softly, you can almost hear the sounds of the city fading into the distance. Babylonian women had more rights than you'd expect. Babylonian society was patriarchal, but women actually had significant legal rights, far more than in later civilizations like ancient Greece. Women could represent themselves in court, own property, pass it down to their children, and hold positions as priestesses and officials. It was rare for a man to take a second wife, and this was usually only permissible if the first wife was unable to bear children. This challenges the common assumption that ancient women were entirely without agency. The Hanging Gardens mystery. The Hanging Gardens are the only one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world whose location has never been definitively proven. There are no extant Babylonian texts that mention them, and no archaeological evidence has been found in Babylon itself. Some scholars now argue the legendary gardens were actually built not in Babylon but by the Assyrian king Sennacherib at Nineveh, and that the location became confused over centuries of retelling. This means the Hanging Gardens of Babylon might have been the Hanging Gardens of Nineveh all along, a fascinating historical twist. Babylonian banking and finance. Babylonian entrepreneurs operated complex private businesses entirely independent of palaces or temples. The Nur-Sin family, for example, ran a sophisticated commercial enterprise for nearly a century, engaging in money lending and the import-export of goods. The family patriarch, Idin-Marduk, directed operations for 78 years and was willing to accept financial risks in exchange for substantial returns. Banking firms like the House of Egibi acted as land managers, while the House of Murashu became successful by renting royal lands to tenant farmers and converting agricultural profits into metal currency. Contracts were written on clay tablets and included notarization by witnesses, and after a debt was repaid, the creditor would break the tablet to show the debt was extinguished. Babylonian mathematics was centuries ahead. Babylonian astronomers were using geometry to track Jupiter's movement as early as 350 to 50 BCE, mathematical concepts that weren't thought to exist until 14th century Europe. They plotted the planet's velocity against time on an XY graph and calculated the area under the curve using trapezoids to determine how far Jupiter had traveled. They also invented the 360-degree circle and divided it into degrees, a system we still use today. These astronomers weren't just priests watching the sky. They were revolutionizing mathematical thought. Babylonian merchants and international trade. Babylonia was rich in fertile soil but poor in natural resources, so metal, wood, and luxury items had to be imported. This created huge opportunities for foreign traders, including Judean merchants. Royal merchants, Tamkar-Shari, worked closely with the king's administration, dealing in gold and silver. One family of Judean royal merchants from Sipar, the descendants of Ari, are documented in 6 cuneiform tablets showing their trading activities, including sales of gold to the Ababa temple and barley transactions. This shows that Babylon was a truly multicultural commercial hub. Babylonian plucking and the textile industry. Instead of shearing sheep, Babylonian workers would pluck the wool, combing and pulling it from the animals as they naturally shed their coats in the spring. This huge undertaking produced the wool that fueled Babylon's textile industry. Women played an essential role as weavers, producing high-quality woolen textiles that were traded with neighboring kingdoms for metals, timber, and precious stones. These textiles were among Babylon's most valuable exports. The Enuma Elish, Babylon's creation epic. The Enuma Elish is the Babylonian creation epic, named after its opening words meaning "when on high." It celebrates Marduk's victory over the primordial goddess Tiamat and the forces of chaos. Marduk defeats Tiamat, splits her body in half to create heaven and earth, and establishes cosmic order. This epic was recited during the Akitu New Year festival, reinforcing Babylon's religious and political supremacy. The Hanging Gardens and daily life. Greek writers claimed Babylon was home to the Hanging Gardens, one of the seven wonders. Modern scholars debate their existence, but Babylon certainly had advanced water management. Everyday life revolved around trade, agriculture, and religion. Markets sold grain, dates, and wool. Families lived in mud brick houses along narrow streets. Imagine walking slowly through the city, the smell of baking bread, the calls of vendors. Babylonian scholarship. Babylon remained a center of scholarship. Astronomers recorded planetary movements. Mathematicians worked with complex calculations. Scribes maintained vast collections of texts. This was a city of ideas. Quiet rooms filled with tablets preserving knowledge for generations. The fall to Persia. After Nebuchadnezzar, the empire weakened. In 539 BCE, Cyrus the Great captured Babylon. Ancient accounts portray this as relatively peaceful. Babylon became a province of the Persian Empire, a powerful city changing hands, but continuing to live on, its temples still active, its scholars still at work. Alexander and decline. In 331 BCE, Alexander the Great took Babylon, intending to make it a key capital. He died there in 323 BCE. After his death, the Seleucid dynasty shifted focus to new cities, gradually neglecting Babylon. Temples were abandoned, the cuneiform script fell out of use. Babylon became a ruin, its greatness remembered in stories. Legacy and closing. Babylon's memory endured in Jewish scriptures, Greek histories, and later in Christian and Islamic literature. Its legal traditions shaped later law. Its myths influenced neighboring cultures. Its astronomy fed into ancient science. Babylon became a symbol of greatness, pride, and sometimes warning. But historically, it was a center of craftsmanship, devotion, and curiosity, a place where people farmed, traded, prayed, and studied. As we end, let this history rest gently in your thoughts. The rivers, the walls, the temples, all fading softly. Take a deep breath. Let Babylon's ancient story carry you quietly towards sleep.